After weeks of easing American policy towards Russia by withdrawing military and intelligence support for Ukraine's defense, President Donald Trump has threatened Moscow with further economic and trade sanctions. This comes after a massive Russian drone attack on the Ukrainian port city of Odessa, which triggered fires and damaged energy infrastructure. On his Truth Social platform, Trump stated that Russia was absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield, and mentioned that he was considering large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia as a response. He added that any sanctions considered would remain in place until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached in the ongoing conflict. Trump urged both countries to get to the table right now before it is too late. Later, speaking in the Oval Office, Trump told reporters that he still believes Russian President Vladimir Putin, who first sent Russian troops into Ukraine when he illegally annexed Crimea in 2014, wants peace based on statements from the Russian leader. Trump expressed that he thinks the U.S. is currently doing very well with Russia, despite acknowledging that Russia is bombing Ukraine heavily. He found it more challenging to deal with Ukraine, saying, "They don't have the cards." When pressed on whether he thinks Putin is taking advantage of Trump's decision to pause aid to Ukraine, Trump replied, "I think he's doing what anybody else would do, and I think he's hitting them harder than he's been hitting them, and I think probably anybody in that position would be doing that right now." However, Trump stated he would not permit Ukraine's forces to receive defensive weapons to prevent more Russian attacks because he needs assurance that Ukraine wants to settle with Russia. "I don't know that they want to settle. If they don't want to settle, we're out of there because we want them to settle," he said. Despite Trump's recent threat to impose new sanctions on Russia, it remains unclear what further sanctions or trade barriers he could implement that would have an immediate effect on Russia's economy. Since Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered a large-scale unprovoked invasion of Ukrainian territory in February 2022, the United States and European Union, along with other Western democracies, have worked to cut off Moscow from the global financial system. They have imposed a series of crippling sanctions that have exacted a steep price, but have not significantly reduced Russia's ability to wage war because Putin has successfully exploited alliances with other authoritarian countries, such as Iran and North Korea, to obtain needed military material. Despite this recent threat of new sanctions against Russia, Trump has privately asked aides about providing Moscow with sanctions relief in exchange for engaging in peace talks. The president's latest social media post comes just 1 week after a disastrous Oval Office meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. After this meeting, Zelensky was asked to leave the White House without signing a mineral rights deal both sides had touted as a way to secure continued support from Trump and his administration. Zelensky left the White House roughly an hour after the emotional eruption, cutting short talks that were supposed to cement an economic relationship between Washington and Kiev and create a mechanism to repay the billions in American military aid sent to Ukraine since 2022. On Monday, Trump took to his Truth Social platform to criticize Zelensky in a post claiming that the United States will not put up with his sentiments for much longer, after Zelensky said he expects to maintain a relationship with the U.S. despite his fraught relationship with Trump. However, on Tuesday, Trump told members of Congress during an address that he was working tirelessly to end the savage conflict between Ukraine and Russia. He mentioned receiving a letter from Zelensky indicating that Kiev was ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. American and Ukrainian officials are set to meet for talks next week in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.